True power is knowing your worth. Walking away isn't weakness, it's strength. It creates respect, sparks desire, and shows clarity. Emotional independence, boundaries, and freedom make you magnetic. The man who can leave chooses self-respect over control, and in that choice, he becomes irresistible, commanding attention without chasing it. So many people believe that walking away from someone, from a situation, or from a dream is a sign of weakness. They think that strength is staying no matter what, fighting endlessly for approval, for attention, for love. But that's not strength. True strength is understanding your worth so deeply that you know when enough is enough. Walking away is a quiet declaration of power. It is a statement that says, I will not settle for less than I deserve, and I will not diminish myself to make someone else comfortable. When a man walks away, he is not running from fear. He is running towards self-respect. He is choosing his peace over chaos, his dignity over desperation. There is a magnetic quality in someone who can detach, someone who refuses to beg for validation, someone who refuses to be controlled by the opinions or expectations of others. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. Awareness of what is acceptable, awareness of what aligns with your values, and awareness of your own emotional sovereignty. People often fear loss. They fear leaving because they imagine that walking away will make them less. But the truth is, walking away shows that you are more. It shows that you are courageous enough to prioritize yourself, strong enough to accept that not everyone or everything is meant to stay, and wise enough to recognize when your energy is being wasted. When you walk away, you send a message, not with words, but with your actions. You are saying, I respect myself, I respect my time, I respect my heart. That message is louder than anything you could ever demand or explain. Walking away is also about creating space. Space for clarity, space for growth, space for better opportunities to find their way into your life. When you cling, you block what is meant for you. When you chase, you diminish your power. But when you release, when you step back and allow the universe to respond, you regain control, not over others, but over yourself. And that is a power no one can take away. It's important to understand that walking away does not make you less loving, less committed, or less passionate. On the contrary, it proves that you are strong enough to love without losing yourself. You do not attach your happiness to someone else's behavior or decisions. You do not tie your worth to approval. The man who can walk away is not cold. He is conscious. He is not careless. He is courageous. And in that courage, he becomes magnetic, respected, and deeply admired. Walking away is a choice to honor yourself, a choice to protect your peace, a choice to refuse mediocrity and demand authenticity. It is the ultimate expression of strength, the quiet power that cannot be forced or faked, and the world, sooner or later, notices. Detachment is often misunderstood. Many think it means not caring, being cold, or shutting people out. But true detachment is the opposite of that. It is caring enough about yourself to not be consumed by someone else's behavior, opinions, or approval. It is the silent strength of a man who knows his value, who does not need constant validation, who does not cling to outcomes. And this quality, when mastered, becomes magnetic. People are drawn to it because it is rare, it is powerful, and it is authentic. When a man detaches, he is not indifferent, he is free. Free from the chains of expectation, free from the fear of rejection, free from the constant need to prove himself. This freedom radiates confidence, and confidence is irresistible. Detachment gives a man clarity. He no longer chases what is not meant for him, and in doing so, he creates creates space for the right opportunities and people to flow toward him naturally. People notice the difference between someone who is desperate for attention and someone who is self-contained. They are drawn not because they are forced to be, but because they sense the power in restraint. The magnetism of detachment comes from its paradox. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop trying to control, the moment you stop pleading for validation, you immediately become more desirable. People are attracted to what they cannot control, to what they cannot possess entirely, to someone who values themselves more than the approval of others. Detachment allows you to love without dependency, to interact without desperation, and to live without anxiety. And in this state, your presence alone speaks louder than words ever could. Detachment also teaches patience and discernment. A detached man does not rush relationships, does not force outcomes, and does not compromise his standards for temporary comfort. He observes, he waits, and he acts only when it aligns with his principles and his purpose. This self-control, this deliberate approach to life is magnetic because it signals emotional intelligence, strength, and maturity, qualities that, moreover, detachment protects a man from unnecessary pain. When you are not attached to expectations, disappointment cannot shake you. When you are not dependent on someone else's decisions, rejection does not define you. And this inner peace, this calm confidence radiates outward. It is the silent allure that people cannot resist, the quiet certainty that says, I am complete on my own, and yet I am capable of greatness with the right people. Detachment is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is not avoidance. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that your energy is precious and that you cannot pour from an empty cup. And when a man lives from this understanding, he does not attract just anyone. He attracts the right people, the right relationships, and the right opportunities. That is the hidden power of detachment, the magnetic force that transforms presence into influence and influence into respect, admiration, and deep connection. Scarcity is a concept that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in every aspect of life, especially in relationships and personal influence. Too often, we think that giving ourselves completely, being constantly available, and saying yes to everything is the way to earn love, respect, or attention. But the truth is, when everything is easily available, it loses its worth. Value is created through rarity, through the understanding that not everything can be had, not everything can be demanded, and not everyone can claim your time, attention, or energy. When a man understands this, he begins to act differently. He no longer chases incessantly, no longer clings to approval, and no longer sacrifices his peace to satisfy someone else's expectations. Instead, he becomes selective. He shows up intentionally, he engages meaningfully, and he offers his presence in a way that is earned, not expected. This scarcity is not manipulation. It is self-respect. It is a declaration that your life, your energy, and your love are precious, and they are not to be taken lightly. People notice this. They recognize it instinctively, and in doing so, they value you more. Scarcity also cultivates mystery. When you are always available, people quickly take your presence for granted. But when you set boundaries and are deliberate in your availability, you create intrigue. People begin to wonder, they begin to notice, and they begin to realize what they might be missing. This does not mean playing games or being artificial. It means living with intentionality, knowing your worth, and refusing to dilute yourself for temporary comfort or fleeting attention. There is power in being scarce, and that power is magnetic. In relationships, scarcity works like a natural filter. Those who are genuinely aligned with you, those who truly recognize your value, will rise to meet you. Those who are indifferent, who take you for granted, or who seek to exploit your availability will naturally fall away. This is how scarcity protects your energy, elevates your worth, and attracts only what is meaningful. It creates respect without needing to demand it. It fosters desire without needing to chase it. And it teaches others that your presence is not to be assumed but appreciated. Scarcity is not about ego or pride. It is about clarity and self-awareness. It is about understanding that time, attention, and love are limited resources, and giving them wisely amplifies their power. When a man embraces scarcity, he does not suffer from loneliness or isolation. He experiences freedom, freedom from being used, freedom from seeking approval, and freedom from compromising his standards. And in that freedom, he becomes magnetic. His presence, his words, his actions all carry weight because they are not constant. They are chosen. Scarcity increases value because it teaches others that not everything is guaranteed, not everything is easy, and not everyone is replaceable. And in this reality, a man who respects himself, who protects his energy, and who engages with intention becomes irresistible. He does not demand attention, he earns it. He does not beg for respect, he commands it. Scarcity is the hidden power that transforms ordinary presence into extraordinary influence. Obsession is often confused with passion, but they are very different energies. Obsession is desperate. Obsession is restless. It clings, it chases, it refuses to let go, and it ties your happiness to someone else's actions, decisions, or approval. Clarity, on the other hand, is calm. Clarity is strong. It sees situations as they are, not as we wish them to be. A man with clarity knows his boundaries, understands his worth, and does not allow fear or attachment to dictate his choices. And when clarity replaces obsession, everything changes. Your presence becomes magnetic, your decisions become effortless, and your life becomes intentional. A man with clarity does not need to control outcomes. He does not manipulate or force situations because he understands that forcing only creates tension and resistance. He trusts that the right people and opportunities will align naturally when he is in his own power. This trust comes from self-awareness and inner strength, and it allows him to walk away when necessary without regret or guilt. Walking away with clarity is not rejection. It is affirmation of self-worth, a statement that says, I will not compromise my peace for temporary comfort, and I will not lose myself in pursuit of someone else's validation. Clarity beats obsession because it creates freedom, not confinement. It transforms desire into respect, attachment into attraction, and restlessness into patience. When you are obsessed, you demand attention. When you are clear, you earn it. When you are obsessed, you act out of fear. When you are clear, you act out of purpose. This energy is magnetic because it signals stability, self-respect, and emotional intelligence, the traits that everyone unconsciously admires and desires. Clarity is power disguised as calmness. It allows a man to navigate life without being enslaved to uncertainty or anxiety. It ensures that every decision, every action, and every relationship is aligned with his higher self. And in that alignment, obsession loses its grip and magnetic attraction naturally emerges effortless, undeniable, and permanent. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful qualities a man can possess, yet it is rarely understood or valued in the way it should be. Many confuse emotional dependence with strength, thinking that needing someone, seeking validation, or relying on constant attention is a sign of connection or commitment. But true strength comes from within. A man who is emotionally independent does not tie his happiness, his self-worth, or his decisions to anyone else's approval. He stands firm, grounded in his own value, and this self-reliance is not only empowering for him, but irresistibly magnetic to others. Emotional independence does not mean shutting people out or being detached from feelings. It means that your emotions, your joy, and your stability are not hostage to someone else's actions. A man who can control his inner world, who can maintain his peace regardless of external circumstances, carries a quiet authority. People sense this immediately. They feel the energy of someone who is self-contained, someone who can love without clinging, someone who can engage without desperation. And that energy attracts respect, admiration, and desire in ways that no words, promises, or efforts could ever achieve. When a man is emotionally independent, he is no longer reactive. He does not overreact to criticism, ignore his intuition to please others, or compromise his standards out of fear of loss. He experiences emotions fully, acknowledges them, and then chooses how to act based on his principles rather than his impulses. This balance creates an aura of control and confidence that is rare and compelling. People are drawn to it because it signals maturity, strength, and emotional intelligence, the qualities that are universally respected and admired. Emotional independence also sets boundaries naturally. A man who is secure within himself does not allow anyone to manipulate his emotions, guilt him into staying in situations that do not serve him, or define his value by their behavior. He is free to walk away from toxicity without fear, to step back when needed, and to engage only in relationships that are reciprocal and nourishing. This freedom is magnetic because it conveys that he is not desperate, he is not available to everyone, and he values himself too highly to settle for less than he deserves. Furthermore, emotional independence enhances attraction because it creates a sense of scarcity. People are drawn to what is not easily obtainable, and someone who is emotionally self-sufficient cannot be controlled or predicted. His presence is a choice, not an obligation, and that choice carries weight. It communicates strength, wisdom, and confidence, making others respect him more deeply and desire him more genuinely. Emotional independence is the foundation of true magnetism. It is the ability to remain whole in yourself, to love without dependency, and to engage without fear. It transforms presence into influence and respect into attraction. A man who masters his emotions does not need to chase, does not need to prove, and does not need to beg for attention. He simply exists as a complete, confident, self-reliant individual, and that alone is irresistible. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls, barriers, or signs of rigidity, but they are none of those things. Boundaries are a declaration of self-respect, a statement that says, "I know my worth, and I will not allow anyone to compromise it." A man who sets boundaries is not controlling or unkind. He is conscious, aware, and intentional. He understands that his time, energy, and emotions are precious, and he refuses to allow them to be wasted on people or situations that do not honor him. This understanding is rare, and it commands respect instantly. A man without boundaries often experiences frustration, resentment, and burnout. He gives too much to people who take for granted. He says yes when he means no, and he allows others to dictate how he should feel, act, or live. In contrast, a man with strong boundaries demonstrates strength, clarity, and self-awareness. He communicates his limits with confidence and enforces them consistently. This does not mean he is harsh or unloving. It means he values himself enough to protect his peace, and that sends a powerful message to everyone around him. Boundaries create respect because they teach others how to treat you. When a man clearly defines what is acceptable and what is not, people naturally adjust their behavior. They realize that he will not tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or indifference. This understanding does not come from intimidation, but from consistent action. Boundaries create a silent authority that cannot be ignored, and over time, this authority builds trust, admiration, and even desire. People are drawn to those who value themselves because it inspires them to value themselves as well. Setting boundaries also fosters emotional intelligence. A man who knows where to draw the line is able to navigate relationships and life situations with clarity and balance. He does not overextend himself emotionally, he does not overcommit his time, and he does not allow others to define his worth. He is able to give love, support, and attention freely, but only when it aligns with his values and his energy. This creates mutual respect, strengthens relationships, and enhances his presence in every interaction. Boundaries are not rigid, they are flexible, evolving as the man grows and as circumstances change. They are not about punishment or revenge, they are about protection and alignment. A man with boundaries walks away from what does not serve him. He communicates his expectations clearly, and he holds firm without aggression or desperation. This approach not only safeguards his own well-being, but also inspires others to recognize his value and to act with integrity. Boundaries are a form of empowerment. They create a structure in which respect, trust, and admiration can flourish. A man who understands the power of boundaries is not easily swayed by pressure, not easily manipulated by others, and not easily devalued by circumstance. He carries himself with confidence, he commands attention without seeking it, and he teaches others silently but unmistakably that his presence, his energy, and his heart are not to be taken lightly. This is the hidden strength that transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful connections and turns respect into genuine magnetism. Walking away is one of the most powerful, yet most misunderstood actions a man can take. Many see it as rejection, as abandonment, or even as failure. But walking away is not about punishing anyone or proving a point. It is about creating space. Space for clarity, space for growth, and space for truth to reveal itself. When a man walks away with self-respect and calm confidence, he does something far more powerful than staying and arguing, chasing, or trying to force a change. He inspires reflection. Reflection happens because absence has a way of highlighting presence. When someone is no longer available to be taken for granted, when their attention is no longer assumed, the void they leave encourages people to pause, to reconsider, and to see things differently. Walking away is not a threat, it is a mirror. It allows others to witness what they may have overlooked, what they may have ignored, and what they may have taken lightly. The man who walks away does not need to speak to make a point. His actions, his dignity, and his self-respect communicate everything. The power of walking away lies in its subtlety. It does not rely on drama, confrontation, or desperation. Instead, it relies on quiet confidence and clarity. A man who leaves knows his worth and refuses to compromise it. He understands that love, respect, and attention cannot be forced. They must be earned. And by walking away, he shifts the dynamic. He removes the option of complacency for the other person. He creates a situation where reflection becomes inevitable because his absence cannot be ignored, and the lessons embedded in that absence resonate more deeply than any words ever could. Walking away also teaches responsibility indirectly. It shows others that their actions have consequences without being controlling or punitive. People begin to see the reality of their choices, the effect of their behavior, and the value of the person they had. Reflection often leads to growth, not just for the person left behind, but for the man who walks away as well. By choosing to step back instead of overextending himself, he maintains his dignity, preserves his energy, and allows life to unfold naturally. This creates a magnetic energy because it is rare, intentional, and grounded in self-respect. Furthermore, walking away inspires reflection because it is rooted in emotional intelligence. The man who can step away understands timing, patience, and perspective. He knows that pressing an issue, arguing endlessly, or chasing approval rarely changes outcomes. Instead, he allows silence and absence to communicate the value of his presence. This method is not passive, it is strategic. It demonstrates confidence, maturity, and self-control, which are deeply attractive qualities. Walking away is more than leaving. It is a lesson in presence, value, and awareness. It encourages people to look inward, to reconsider their priorities, and to recognize what truly matters. The man who can walk away without fear or anger wields power silently, yet profoundly. He does not need to demand attention, he does not need to force respect, and he does not need to explain himself. His absence teaches more than his presence ever could, and in that quiet, intentional withdrawal, he creates reflection, admiration, and lasting influence. Most people believe power comes from control over others, over situations, or over outcomes. They think that the strongest man is the one who dictates, manipulates, or dominates. But true power is not about imposing your will or forcing results. True power comes from freedom, the freedom to act without fear, to choose without hesitation, and to live according to your values without being chained by external expectations. A man who understands this wields influence effortlessly because he operates from inner strength rather than external pressure. Freedom allows a man to maintain clarity and perspective. When you are not obsessed with controlling people or outcomes, you see situations as they truly are. You understand what aligns with your purpose and what does not. You make decisions based on wisdom, not anxiety, and you move through life with intentionality rather than reaction. This clarity makes you magnetic because people sense the confidence that comes from a man who is self-directed, who does not rely on manipulation, and who cannot be shaken by circumstances. When a man seeks control, he creates tension and resistance. He becomes attached to outcomes, dependent on approval, and fearful of loss. Control is exhausting, unsustainable, and ultimately unfulfilling. Freedom, on the other hand, is liberating. It allows a man to engage fully in life while remaining unattached to unnecessary drama. It gives him the ability to walk away from toxicity without guilt, to act decisively without hesitation, and to influence others through presence, not coercion. This freedom is the foundation of true respect and genuine attraction. Freedom also empowers emotional independence. A man who operates from freedom does not rely on others to validate his feelings or define his worth. He is complete on his own, and this completeness radiates outward. People are drawn to this energy because it is rare and authentic. They recognize that he is not chasing, not begging, and not compromising. He is guided by self-respect and conscious choice. The more free a man is from external control, the stronger his magnetic presence becomes. True power through freedom is also about boundaries and self-mastery. It is the ability to choose where to invest your energy, whom to engage with, and when to step back. It is the wisdom to recognize that trying to control outcomes often backfires, while allowing life to flow naturally brings clarity and alignment. A man who has mastered this understands that his influence grows not by forcing others to comply, but by holding firm in his values, living authentically, and demonstrating strength through restraint. Freedom over control is the hidden power that transforms presence into influence, influence into respect, and respect into attraction. It allows a man to navigate life without fear, to prioritize his peace over pressure, and to command attention without demanding it. True power is not in bending the world to your will. It is in mastering yourself, choosing your path, and living fully with unwavering confidence. A man who walks freely yet with purpose becomes irresistible, magnetic, and unforgettable because his power is rooted not in domination but in authentic, unshakable freedom. In the end, true power, respect, and attraction are not earned by chasing, controlling, or compromising. They are cultivated within through self-respect, clarity, emotional independence, and the courage to walk away when necessary. The man who understands his worth, sets boundaries, embraces freedom, and detaches from what does not serve him becomes magnetic without effort. His presence commands attention, his absence inspires reflection, and his life radiates confidence that cannot be ignored. Walking away, letting go, and choosing peace are not signs of weakness. They are the ultimate expression of strength. When you live from this place of inner power, you no longer seek validation. You embody it. You no longer chase desire. You inspire it. And in that alignment, every choice, every action, and every relationship reflects your highest self. This is the hidden power of being a man who walks away, strong, free, and irresistibly magnetic.